Alright, so now we're going to discuss parallel parking. With parallel parking, basically what happens is there's parallel parking that you do on the road, on the streets, every day in real life, and there's parallel parking that we do on the road test. Obviously, both are very similar to one another. Here are some things that you got to remember about parallel parking on the street. The first thing is, if you get the chance to just drive into an available parking spot, that would be great. You want to minimize how much you're reversing to begin with anyways. So if you have a big enough spot, by all means, go in face first, drive into your spot. You would signal to go park to your right. Now, if the spot is smaller, the front wheels, the way they turn, they're designed that they can steer sharper. Your car can get in tighter and quicker in reverse. So if it is a spot that's just 1.5 times the size of your vehicle, you could still get into it, but you'll have to reverse into it. So your job as you drive up, and this is a road where maybe you have one lane going in each direction, as you drive up, you are going to tap your brake pedal 3 times to flash, flash, flash the brake lights to warn other cars to wait back here. You're then going to drive forward, and let's say our car is about the size of this pen. If you drive forward and you stop here, you haven't gone far enough forward, you'll just hit the back cars as you try to go into the spot. So you tap, 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 you continue on until you get roughly beside this car. Once you've achieved that, you then set your steering towards the right, and that sets up your angle. If I don't steer in enough before I countersteer, I'll end up too far from the curb. If I do it just the right amount, I should end up perfect. If I overdo it, if I keep my wheel cranked to the right for too long, now when I steer to the left, I'll hit the curb. But even if I hit the curb, it's not the end of the world. I can go forward and right, back and left, and that's still a good parking job. Just remember, tap, tap, tap your brakes 3 times on the way up. You can signal towards the right. You'll go forward till you meet that car, and you find your way backing in. Again, the spot has to be 1.5 times for you to even be able to back into the spot. On the road test, no matter what size of car you bring, you're going to be doing parallel parking in a 25-foot long spot. And with most vehicles, that still gives you enough room that you can back into the spot. The bigger the car, the more precise you'll have to be backing in. But in most cars, you should be able to do it regardless. Now, on a road test, there's certain rules that they're going to read out to you before you begin. Maybe you pull over to a curb or something along those lines before you start the parallel parking, and they'll give you the instructions. And the instructions go, you get 3 shifts per attempt. So remember when we back in and we touch the curb? On a road test, if you touch a curb, you only have 2 more shifts to fix it, which should be enough anyways. You get 3 tries. So let's say you're the person who countersteers too early and you're too far from the curb. Then you're in a position where you get to signal and check, pull out, try again. So you get 3 attempts or 5 minutes. That's tons of time, so don't ever rush it. The other rules are you cannot touch a pole, so be very careful. They represent cars, and so obviously you can't touch the poles. You cannot climb a curb. Now, the curb is designed, if you come up, if you touch the curb, that's not a problem. The only time it's going to be a problem is if you ever hit the curb so hard or continue to accelerate once you've touched the curb. If you ever climb the curb that you lift off the ground, now you're in a position where you can fail the road test. So 3 attempts or 5 minutes, you can touch a pole, and you cannot touch a pole, you cannot climb the curb, and you must be within 18 inches of the curb. This here is 18 inches, so that's a pretty reasonable distance for you to be from the curb. If both tires are within 18 inches, then you've done your job. So, as I come up, I'm going to signal and shoulder check to make sure no cars are in the act of passing me. I drive up from a reasonable distance. I tap my brake pedal 3 times. And remember, don't just wiggle with some pressure. You have to take your foot right off in between taps. So it's 3 distinct flashes. You can signal towards the right. You're going to go forward until, in the training cars, you would be taught this method. There's a guideline here. There's a 1 in the window. When you see the pole in the number 1, that's when you stop. You crank your wheel to the right. That sets up the angle coming in. Once you get halfway in, you're going to see this pole in the 2. Once you see it in the 2, you stop, you steer to the left, and you should end up perfect every time. And so that's the basic concepts behind parallel parking.